Order, order! Court is in session. Today we'll be hearing the case for light versus heavy weights and settle once and for all which one is better for muscle growth. So let's proceed with the trial. When it comes to working out, there's a lot of misinformation floating around out there. Everyone has their own do's and don'ts, their own magical way of gaining muscle mass and stripping down fat. The only problem is that most of these claims are based on pure hearsay with little to no scientific evidence to actually back them up. You've probably seen gym bros hitting insane amounts of weights and almost snapping their limbs in half. But what if we told you that you don't necessarily have to lift pounds upon pounds of weight in order to get swole? You'll probably start questioning all that time you wasted trying to bench press 2 plates on each side of the bar. We get it. It's normal to feel intimidated when you walk into a gym and see people lifting weights that are 5 times heavier than yours. While it isn't intentional, most fitness environments can become really competitive. In fact, sometimes this can get so bad that people end up ego lifting and severely injuring themselves. You may feel self-conscious because the person next to you can bench press 3 times more than you, but the real question here is, should you be feeling that way? The answer is obviously no. Muscle growth does not depend on the amount of weight you lift. The myth that in order to bulk up you must lift super heavy weights is so normalized that people have started taking it as fact. The truth couldn't be further from it. You can achieve similar results with lighter weights if you control the weight and perform your reps with great form. It all really comes down to 2 things: the number of reps you do and how you do them to achieve muscle fatigue. You see, in order to fully get this concept, you need to first understand how muscles get bigger. Here's the thing: when you work out, what you're doing is that you're essentially putting strain on your muscles and damaging them in the process. But wait, doesn't that sound kind of counterintuitive? Well, just hear us out. Now, the real muscle making starts once you're done with your workout. What happens is your body repairs or replaces damaged muscle fibers through a cellular process in which muscle fibers fuse together to form new muscle protein strands, or myofibrils. These repaired myofibrils thicken and multiply over time as you keep repeating the process, resulting in muscle growth. Now, in order to achieve this, it isn't necessary that you go and start lifting the heaviest weights you can find. Most of the time, doing so can do more harm than good because the heavier you go, the harder it is for you to control the weight. That's when other muscles start to compensate and start helping your target muscles to actually get the weight up. This can also lead to injury and isn't suggested if you haven't mastered your form. Many experts will tell you that the single most important goal of your workouts should be to work your muscles to the point of fatigue, which is basically just a fancy way of saying that you need to go to or close to failure on your lifts. This, however, doesn't always apply, especially if you're a powerlifter following a specific program, which means that it makes no difference how much weight you're lifting. So whether you do 5 dumbbell curls with a 20-pound weight or 20 reps with a 5-pound weight, as long as you reach muscle fatigue, you will stimulate your muscles enough. So let's look at the science behind it. Recently, some scientific research was conducted to determine whether lighter weights are as effective at building muscle as heavier weights. A 2016 study titled "Pumping Iron: Lighter Weights Just as Effective as Heavier Weights to Gain Muscle, Build Strength" was able to find something really intriguing about the matter. Over a 12-week period, researchers compared 2 groups of experienced lifters, with one group using lighter weights, up to 50% of maximum strength, for sets ranging from 20 to 25 repetitions, while the other group performed 8 to 12 repetitions of heavier weights, up to 90% of maximum strength. Both groups were pushed to their limit. In the end, with the help of muscle and blood samples, the researchers concluded that gains in muscle mass and muscle fiber size were virtually identical. Now, obviously, there is a difference between pro lifters like the ones used in the study and your average Joe, but this study does give us some evidence that it's all a game of muscle stimulation, getting to or close to failure rather than the weight itself. Whether you pick light or heavy weights, sticking to the same weight is not always a good idea. As you grow stronger, it's important to keep challenging the muscle with more weight, more reps, or changing up your form and making each rep harder for you. However, the fact that lifting light can be just as effective as lifting heavy means that many gym goers can find a formula that works for them. Because at the end of the day, it's just as important to enjoy a workout and feel good after as it is to sweat and create muscle fatigue. Now, what should you do? Go heavy or go light? The biggest advantage light weights can have over heavy ones is the fact that they're the best choice for someone who is new to working out or starting a new fitness program. Choosing a lighter weight when you're new to the gym is a great way to practice your form and prevent injury while your form isn't perfect. Just going heavy for the sake of going heavy in all of your lifts isn't going to do much for you. You don't have any business lifting 3 plates on the bench if your form and technique isn't mastered yet. That is almost guaranteeing you an injury down the road, which would leave you sobbing at home and losing muscle because you can't work out. Start with a low weight that you can do 12 to 15 reps with, master the weight, and gradually increase the weight over time when you've mastered your form with said weight. That means perfect form and slow and controlled reps. Upping the weight isn't going to do much for you if you can't use the target muscles to move the weight. For example, on the incline bench press, you want your upper chest to be responsible for moving the weight up and down, not your shoulders or the momentum you create with bouncing the bar on your chest. So what's the verdict? The thing is, now that you know both light and heavy weights are a viable option if you want to build muscle, it all depends on where you're at in your fitness journey. But just lifting light or heavy weights up and down isn't enough to stimulate muscle growth consistently. There is one thing that you need to do if you want consistent muscle and strength gains, and it's arguably the most important thing when it comes to strength and muscle growth. If you really want to see consistent strength and muscle growth, make sure you watch this video next, where we cover exactly how you can do that. And with that, we'd like to say, the court is adjourned.